In the vast, windswept expanse of Cyrenaica, where the desert sands hold the secrets of time, a story of resilience was born. This is the land that shaped a legend, a beacon of defiance against the shadow of an empire. Here, under the endless Libyan sky, began the journey of a man whose name would echo through history, Omar Mukhtar. Born in 1858 in the quiet village of Janzur near Tobruk, Omar Mukhtar's early life was steeped in the traditions of his people. From a young age, he was known for his sharp intellect and deep piety. His father, a respected member of the Manifa tribe, instilled in him a love for knowledge and a profound connection to their faith. The arid landscape was his first classroom, teaching him patience and endurance. We see a young boy, his eyes bright with curiosity, memorizing verses from the Quran under the guidance of local scholars. He was sent to the local mosque school, a madrasa, where his dedication to learning set him apart. His formative years were not spent in play, but in diligent study, laying the foundation for the wisdom that would later define him. As he grew into manhood, Mukhtar's reputation as a scholar blossomed. He journeyed to the renowned Senussi University at Jagbab, the spiritual heart of the Senussi movement, a Sufi order that emphasized both religious purity and community welfare. There he immersed himself in Islamic sciences, theology, and jurisprudence, studying under the most esteemed teachers of the time. His thirst for knowledge was insatiable, and his grasp of complex religious and social issues earned him the respect of his peers and mentors. After years of rigorous education, Omar Mukhtar transitioned from a student to a teacher, becoming a master of the Quran and a respected sheikh within the Senussi order. His life became one of devoted scholarship and spiritual leadership. Appointed as a sheikh for a zawiya in Al-Qusur, he was not just a teacher of religious texts, but also a guide for his community. We can envision him, a charismatic figure with a calm and commanding presence, imparting wisdom to his students. He taught them not only the principles of their faith, but also the importance of justice, integrity, and self-reliance. He was known for his ability to mediate disputes, his counsel sought by tribal leaders and common folk alike. Often, he would retreat into the solitude of the desert, seeking communion with God and reflecting on the challenges facing his people. In these moments of quiet contemplation, his resolve and understanding of the world deepened, preparing him for a role he never sought but was destined to embrace. But this life of peaceful scholarship was not to last. The turn of the 20th century brought with it the winds of change, carrying the ambitions of a distant European power. Across the Mediterranean, the newly unified Kingdom of Italy cast its covetous eyes on the shores of North Africa, dreaming of a new Roman Empire. In 1911, that dream turned into an invasion. The tranquility of the desert was shattered by the roar of cannons and the march of foreign soldiers. Italian warships appeared on the horizon, their silhouettes a dark omen against the setting sun. The invasion of Libya had begun, marking the end of an era and the dawn of a long, brutal struggle. As news of the aggression spread, the scholar and teacher looked towards the encroaching storm. A new chapter of his life was about to be written, not with ink on parchment, but with courage in the face of tyranny. The episode closes on the resolute face of an adult Omar Mukhtar, his eyes reflecting the fire of a nation's will to be free, hinting at the lion he was about to become. The year is 1911. The thunder of cannons roars across the Libyan coast as Italian warships unleash a torrent of fire upon ancient shores, heralding the dawn of a brutal colonial conquest. Amid the chaos and smoke, a new chapter of resistance is about to be written, one that will immortalize a name in the annals of history. This is the story of how a humble teacher became a symbol of defiance. This is the story of Omar Mukhtar, and this is where the resistance begins. Before the war, Omar Mukhtar was a man of peace, a scholar and teacher of the Quran, deeply respected within the Senussi religious order. His life was one of quiet contemplation, spent among sacred texts and mentoring the young. But the Italian invasion shattered this tranquility. The sight of his homeland being violated and his people suffering under a foreign aggressor stirred a profound change within him. In a powerful symbolic moment, Mukhtar sets aside his scholarly books, his hands, once accustomed to turning pages, now closing firmly around the cold steel of a rifle. His face, once serene with scholarly focus, hardens with an unyielding resolve. The teacher was gone. A warrior had been born, ready to trade the pen for the sword to defend his people's freedom and dignity. Mukhtar understood that a divided people could never repel a modern European army. The true strength of Libya lay in its tribes, scattered across the vast, unforgiving desert. Under the cloak of night, lit by the flickering flames of a campfire, he journeyed from camp to camp, meeting with the proud and often rival Bedouin chieftains. He spoke not as a commander issuing orders, but as an elder sharing wisdom, invoking their shared faith, their common heritage, and their love for the land. His charisma and unwavering conviction resonated deeply. He patiently bridged old rivalries, convincing them that their only hope for survival was to stand together as one. In these clandestine desert gatherings, a fragmented collection of tribes was forged into a unified, formidable resistance movement, bound by a sacred oath to fight for their homeland. With a united front, Mukhtar unleashed a new kind of warfare against the technologically superior Italians. He knew a conventional battle would be suicide. Instead, he harnessed the desert itself as his greatest weapon, pioneering brilliant guerrilla tactics that would frustrate the invaders for 2 decades. The Libyan Mujahideen became ghosts of the sands. Mounted on swift Arabian horses, they would materialize from behind towering dunes, as if from nowhere, launching lightning-fast ambushes on unsuspecting Italian supply columns and patrols. They would strike with ferocious precision, creating chaos and inflicting casualties before melting back into the vast, trackless wilderness, leaving the bewildered Italians to fire at shadows. This hit-and-run strategy turned the desert from an obstacle into an ally, making every Italian advance a perilous gamble. As the dust settles from another successful raid, Omar Mukhtar stands atop a windswept escarpment, his gaze fixed upon the endless expanse of the desert horizon. The setting sun paints the sky in hues of orange and red, mirroring the fire of the conflict he has ignited. He feels the weight of his people's hopes on his shoulders, a burden he accepts with solemn determination. He knows this is just the beginning. The path ahead is long and fraught with sacrifice, a war that will test their endurance to its very limits. But in his heart, there is no doubt. The struggle for freedom has begun, and he, Omar Mukhtar, the Lion of the Desert, will lead it until his last breath. A long war lay ahead, but the flame of resistance had been lit, never to be extinguished. As dawn breaks over the rugged terrain of Cyrenaica, a lone figure stands silhouetted against the rising sun. From a rocky outcrop, he surveys the land below, his gaze sharp and unwavering. Through a pair of binoculars, an Italian military convoy snakes its way across the desert floor, a symbol of foreign domination. This is Omar Mukhtar, a teacher and a scholar, now a leader of men, known by a name that echoes through the vast emptiness of the Libyan desert. The Lion of the Desert. His war is not one of conquest, but of survival. A desperate, defiant struggle for the soul of his homeland against the might of Mussolini's colonial empire. This is the story of a resistance that refused to be broken. The conflict escalates into a fierce guerrilla war, a deadly dance of shadows and sand. Mukhtar's Mujahideen, masters of the terrain, move like phantoms through the Jebel Akhdar mountains. One moment, they are there, launching a lightning-fast raid on a vulnerable Italian supply column, the roar of gunfire and explosions shattering the desert silence before fading as quickly as it came. The next, they have vanished without a trace, melting back into the labyrinthine cave systems that serve as their sanctuary and fortress. Small, isolated Italian garrisons, lulled into a false sense of security, are suddenly overwhelmed by swift, coordinated attacks. For the Italian soldiers, every shadow holds a potential threat, and every gust of wind carries the whisper of an impending assault. Omar Mukhtar's strategy is one of 1,000 cuts, designed to bleed the technologically superior invaders, proving that courage and knowledge of the land can be weapons as potent as any rifle. Frustrated by the resilience of the Libyan resistance, Rome dispatches a new commander, a man known for his ruthlessness, General Rodolfo Graziani. He arrives with a mandate to crush the rebellion by any means necessary, ushering in a dark and brutal chapter of the war. Graziani's strategy is one of total subjugation, aimed not just at the fighters, but at the very people who sustain them. Under his command, a colossal barbed wire fence, hundreds of kilometers long, is erected along the border with Egypt, a steel curtain designed to sever the rebels' supply lines. Simultaneously, a horrific policy of forced relocation is enacted. The Bedouin population, the lifeblood of the resistance, is rounded up and herded into squalid concentration camps, their livestock slaughtered and their wells cemented over. The desert, once a source of life, is to be turned into a sterile prison. Yet, even in the face of such unimaginable cruelty, the spirit of the resistance does not falter. One evening, under a canopy of stars, Omar Mukhtar gathers his weary followers around a flickering campfire. The faces gathered around him are etched with hardship and loss, but as he speaks, his voice cuts through the chill night air, steady and resonant with unwavering conviction. He speaks not of hatred but of duty, not of despair but of faith. He reminds them of their history, their land, and the justice of their cause. His words are a balm to their weary souls, a spark that reignites the embers of their resolve. He is their teacher once more, his lesson a powerful one on the nature of freedom and sacrifice. As he finishes, a quiet determination settles over the camp. They are outnumbered and outgunned, but they are not defeated. The culmination of this renewed spirit arrives in a maelstrom of dust and fire. The resistance, armed with Mukhtar's tactical brilliance and their unyielding morale, prepares a masterful ambush. They lure a heavily armed Italian column into a narrow pass, a trap sprung with devastating precision. The technologically superior force, confident in its armor and machine guns, suddenly finds itself caught in a deadly crossfire. The rebels fight with the ferocity of lions defending their pride, their knowledge of every rock and crevice giving them a decisive advantage. The battle is a resounding victory for the resistance, a testament to their enduring spirit. It sends a clear message to Graziani and to Rome. Despite the fences, the camps, and the overwhelming force arrayed against them, the Lion of the Desert and his followers will never surrender. Their struggle for freedom, born from the sands of Libya, will endure. In 1931, the brutal strategy of Marshal Rodolfo Graziani had begun to bear its bitter fruit. The construction of a massive barbed wire fence stretching over 270 kilometers from the Mediterranean coast to the oasis of Jagbub had effectively sealed off the Libyan resistance from their vital supply lines in Egypt. This colossal barrier, studded with forts and patrolled relentlessly, was more than just steel and wire. It was a noose tightening around the neck of the Senussi rebellion. For Omar Mukhtar and his mujahideen, the vast desert that had once been their greatest ally was rapidly becoming their prison. The net, meticulously woven over years of bloody conflict, was finally closing. Trapped within this cage of their own homeland, the hardship for the resistance became unbearable. The flow of food, water, and most critically ammunition dwindled to a mere trickle. Nomadic communities, the lifeblood of the rebellion, had been forcibly relocated to concentration camps, severing the fighters' support network. In the flickering lantern light of an Italian command tent, the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place. A cloaked informant, his face hidden in shadow, gestures towards a location on a military map, his whispered words betraying the last known movements of the desert's most elusive figure. The promise of reward had accomplished what brute force could not. The lion was being stalked, his every move now anticipated by the hunters. On September 11, 1931, the trap was sprung. Omar Mukhtar, leading a small, weary band of fighters, was scouting near the Slonta area when Italian forces ambushed them in a narrow, rocky valley. The element of surprise was total. The air, once still, erupted with the deafening chatter of machine guns and the crack of rifles. The battle was a whirlwind of desperate courage against overwhelming odds, fierce, chaotic, and tragically brief. Amidst the carnage, a bullet found its mark, and Omar Mukhtar's horse collapsed from under him, throwing the elderly leader to the ground and fracturing his arm. The fight was over almost as soon as it began. As the dust and gunsmoke began to settle, Italian soldiers cautiously advanced, their weapons trained on the fallen figure. Slowly, the 73-year-old leader rose to his feet. Wounded, exhausted, and surrounded, he stood with an unbreakable dignity, his gaze meeting that of the approaching Italian officer. There was no fear in his eyes, only the unwavering resolve that had defined his 2-decade-long struggle. A palpable silence fell over the valley, a moment of unspoken acknowledgement between the captor and the captured. The man who had become a legend, a phantom of the dunes, was finally cornered. The lion of the desert was at last in their grasp. The final shot lingers on a powerful and tragic image. Omar Mukhtar, the lion of the desert, is led away in heavy chains. His clothes are torn and his arm is injured, but his head is held high, his expression resolute. He walks with a steady, dignified gait, beginning his final journey toward martyrdom. A story of valor and sacrifice often begins, not at its fiery start, but at its solemn end. On a desolate day, in a stark prison cell, sat a man whose spirit remained unbroken by chains. This was Omar Mukhtar, the lion of the desert, whose final hours would forge an immortal legacy for his people. The walls of his confinement were meant to break him, but they only served to amplify the silence of his resolve, a quiet defiance that would soon echo through eternity. The spectacle that followed was not a trial, but a theater of injustice. Before a biased Italian military court, Omar Mukhtar stood, not as a defendant, but as the very embodiment of Libyan resistance. The judges, instruments of a colonial power, offered him a devil's bargain: clemency in exchange for an end to the rebellion, his life for his nation's submission. Yet his voice, seasoned by 2 decades of desert warfare, rang with unwavering conviction. He refused their offer, declaring that he would not cease his fight. He knew this trial was merely a prelude to his death, but for him, it was a platform to declare that the struggle for freedom was greater than any single life, including his own. His final journey was a somber procession through the heart of the Saluk concentration camp. Omar Mukhtar, aged and shackled, was led towards the public gallows. A crowd of 20,000 of his countrymen, imprisoned and grieving, watched in enforced silence. Their faces were a tapestry of sorrow, but in their eyes, a spark of his defiance was being kindled. Mukhtar's expression was not one of fear, but of profound serenity. He walked with the dignity of a man who had already won his ultimate victory, his gaze fixed on a horizon beyond the gallows, a future he had secured with his own blood. The moment of his execution was handled with a heavy, solemn air. As the noose was placed around his neck, the silence was broken only by his final, resonant words, a verse from the Quran. "From God we came, and to God we shall return." With that, the lion of the desert was silenced, but his voice was not stilled. Those last words transformed from a prayer into a powerful rallying cry. They became the anthem of a people who refused to be conquered, a promise that his fight would continue in the hearts of every Libyan who yearned for freedom. His death was not an end, but the birth of a legend. The true victory of Omar Mukhtar was not won on the battlefield, but in the enduring spirit of his nation. His face, etched with the wisdom and resilience of the desert, became a symbol of national identity, proudly displayed on Libyan currency and painted in vibrant murals on city walls. Archival footage captures the joyous celebrations of independence, a dream he fought and died for. The Italian empire that sought to erase him has crumbled to dust, but the spirit of Omar Mukhtar has outlived his captors. His legacy is not a tale of defeat, but the ultimate story of how one man's unwavering stand for freedom could inspire a nation to reclaim its destiny.